Welcome to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending November 13th, 2015. Our goal at the GreenLight Investor is to provide a unique resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this with a simple worksheet that provides red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. If you need a moment to pause this to read this, please do so now. The examples shown will be exactly that. They'll be examples of how you can use this worksheet as an additional resource to help you manage and make fund choices within your 401k. Please refer to your own investment policy to make sure that the choices you make are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking risks in financial markets. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our worksheet. I'll explain a couple of the key points and then we'll go right into how you can use it to manage your 401k. On the left side, we have the investment choices that are available to you within your 401k. The different headings include the fund number, the symbol of the fund name, and a brief description of it. You'll also see a hyperlink that will take you to an outside resource so you can do additional research should you want to take a look at what some of the key holdings are in the funds, as well as contact information, how you can get in touch with the fund to get additional information. Center section, we have the performance, which is updated each week. We'll show the closing price, the month to date, quarter to date, and the year to date returns. We think this is an important thing to know on a weekly basis so you can see how your fund is doing compared to other funds that are available to you, as well as other funds within the different categories. If you keep track of this on a weekly basis or every other week, you won't get too far behind any of the leaders, as you can always change funds to stay with whichever funds are performing the best. And to the right side of the worksheet is what we think is the most unique portion of this worksheet, and that's what we call the current weekly trends. Down column V, we'll see the relative strength change each week. And this is kind of nice because it takes your eyes right to whichever funds have been the strongest. This week, the money markets have been performing better than the bonds or the stocks. And we'll see that the U.S. equity funds with the bright red light has been the weakest. Also talk just briefly about these dots. I haven't mentioned those in a while, so let's go over those. At the top of this, we'll see that the red dots, when you see a red dot cell, it'll show you that the primary trend of that fund is negative. When you see a green dot in the cell, you'll see that the primary trend of the fund is positive. And when you see yellow dots, as you see here, that the fund is trying to transition from red to green or from green to red, and you don't know if it'll be successful or not. A good case of this is the total stock market fund. We went in just a little bit early last week because we saw the two green lights allocated just a little bit early before we saw the green light confirmation, and we did turn red again. So with this one, when we go into the fund management portion of this discussion, we'll see how we're going to wait one more week for the two red lights to appear, and then if that's what happens, we will go ahead and exit this fund right away. Let's go ahead and scroll down this, and we'll see again that we saw two yellow lights, and again it didn't confirm, so we saw that the fund was trying to transition, but it didn't make it, and it's back to red. So here's one that we decided not to take because of the overall red that we've been seeing. As we scroll down this, we'll see that we have a lot of red. Here's a few green lights that we had talked about. There's not too many on this worksheet, but those are funds that are showing a generally positive trend. Here's another one. And here we're seeing a fund that's been positive and is now trying to transition. So we'll watch the next couple of weeks and see if it transitions or stays green. Again, here we've seen from the red transitioning to the green transitioning, and then we had the confirmed trend in these funds. As we scroll down into the international section, we're seeing that we have two green lights, but again, these are cautionary notes because they both have transitioning cells in them, or the different dots. So even though we have the two green lights here, because of the overall weakness we're still seeing in these markets, wait till we see a green dot confirm the uptrend in these funds. And finally, in the sector portion of this, we'll look at the funds in this category, and here we're seeing that we've been trying to transition. We got a confirmation and a transition, so again, this is stalling out, and we'll wait and see a couple more weeks if there's any action that will be needed. Here we've seen a red go right to a confirmed green, and we've seen a confirmed starting to transition, so that's showing that this fund may be weakening just a little bit, and we continue to see a lot of red as we go down there. So it's still a good time to be very cautious in this market. And in the headers, the flag here, we're seeing that both the US and the international funds are mildly bearish, and we are saying to exercise caution with your choices and allocations within these funds. All right, with that as a primer, let's go ahead and see how we can use this information to make fund choices within your 401k plan. Try to keep this very simple and easy, and to get over to the asset allocation portion, if you click in the ribbon on the view and then highlight the custom views, you'll get some different choices. The only one that we need to look at right now is the allocation, and that's my current allocation, which is capital letters. Click on show, and we'll change the portion of this worksheet to take a look at the allocations that we currently have. A couple things to be aware of. Number one is that the allocations that we see here, we have our target allocations here, which we'll set. We'd like to be 100% invested. So we'll go ahead and target and set our allocations for that. And then in the white portion, the white cells will show the funds that we actually have allocations to. Please remember that these allocations are just good for this worksheet. They don't actually change the funds in your 401k. To change the funds in your 401k, you'll have to go to your website and make the changes in the official site that manages your 401k. To go ahead and see how our funds are doing, if there's any changes, we'll go down to the scroll bar and simply scroll the worksheet over so we can see the red, green, yellow cells, and we'll use these to manage our 401k. Here you can see where we have a 10% target allocation, and we currently have 10%, which we changed last week. And as I previously mentioned, if we see another red cell populate this area next week, we'll go ahead and move this back to our money market. And let's continue scrolling down. We have a 20% allocation to the money market, and let's see if that's going to change as we scroll down further. Right now our current allocation to the fixed income is 0, and the actual allocation is 0, and the reason for this is because of the amount of red that we're seeing. As we scroll down, we have a 0% allocation targeted for the U.S. growth and income funds, and we currently have 0% allocated. And again, the same reason is that we're seeing a lot of red in this area, so right now we're not willing to put capital to work in this area. As we scroll down to the U.S. equity funds, we have a 30% target allocation, and we're showing that we still have a 30% allocation. And let's see if any changes are needed this week. When we look at our 20% allocation, it's still bullish to the left of column V, and we have 2 bullish cells to the right, so there's nothing we need to do. Our other 10% is allocated. We have a neutral, which is cautionary, but we don't have to act on this because we're still seeing 2 green lights. If these change to a yellow dot or to red cells, we'll be looking at change. Or if this long-term trend turns bearish, then we'll also be moving that back to the money market fund. And the international funds, we have a 30% target allocation, of which 20% is currently allocated. And within this fund, we're seeing 1 green light and 2 yellow lights that are showing a cautious sign. So we do have an allocation. We went in a little bit early last week. Right now there's no change that's needed, but again, with these 2 yellow lights, we'll be looking for any change. If this cell turns yellow or red next week, accompanied by a red cell to the right, we'll be moving this capital back to the safety of the money market. And finally, we have a 20% allocation down to the sector funds. Here we have 3 green lights that have been there, but again, it's not been strong. It's really been a stalling out trend. We do have a neutral, so we'll be watching this for the same reason. If this turns red and we do see red cells populate on the right side, there's a good chance we'll be moving this back to a money market next week. And this, we're in the same situation where we've had a strong uptrend. It's starting to transition with the yellow dots showing up. We do have a 10% allocation, and with a neutral long-term trend, we'll be cautious, but we're not going to make any changes this week. So that's what we have this week. No changes are actually needed at this point, but we do have a lot of caution flags up, and if we do see those changes occur, we'll actually be making adjustments to the 401k allocation next week. A couple of other items to look at here. If you do want to learn a little bit more about how you could set up your own allocation, there's a worksheet. Simply click on this and it'll take you to a 10-question asset allocation portion of the worksheet. And we'll give you some ideas on how you can allocate to the different categories based on your age and your investment time horizon, as well as your ability and interest in taking risk in financial markets. And should you want to do a one-click retirement planner, we also have a link that will take you right there. It's just a couple of quick questions. You'll populate a couple of areas and it'll let you see how you're doing as far as reaching retirement goals, or if there's any adjustments to saving or spending that you can do. With that said, let's go ahead and click right back to our custom views and go to with performance columns, and that'll take us back to our home page. And let's go ahead and take a look here. If you'd like any additional information, you can always download our worksheet at the greenlightinvestor.org. Or if there's questions or you'd like to find out a little bit more about how you can use this worksheet to make choices within your 401k plan, you can always send me an email. I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you may have. That's what I've got for this week. Thank you again for taking the time to watch. I hope it's been helpful and it's given you some ideas and resources for managing the choices in your 401k. I hope you have an enjoyable week and a great weekend. Thank you.